Ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us at our first forum, community forum. We want to start by thanking Margo's Kitchen for making their space available. As communities, as residents, as voters, we have a right to say who can be in office with our votes. But how often do we have an opportunity to meet with the candidates in person and ask questions, make comments, and suggestions as to how we would like to see our community? So this evening we have an opportunity to meet and to talk and to chat with Michael GUAGER. He is running for sheriff for Palm Beach County. Like I said, as residents, as business owners, you don't have to be a resident in Palm Beach County. As business owners, decisions are made that impacts us, not only financially, but physically and emotionally. So I want to say again, thank you for this opportunity that you've given yourself to be here so that you can have a chance to communicate and have conversations with our future sheriff. My name is Darlene Pierre-Louis for 4DIASPOTV. I welcome you to come to the podium whenever you have a chance, when question and answer section is available, so that you can ask your questions or make comments. Please keep them brief. We're not telling stories. We're asking a question. We're waiting for the answer. If you have a second question that corresponds with the first one, you're welcome to do so. In the process, you are welcome to have a drink responsibly, and also order food. If you are interested.
I'll drink to that.
You'll drink to that, all right.
Once again, it is a pleasure for us to be here together. The Haitian community, of course, with other, we are pleased to welcome each and every one of you. And we in the Haitian community, we have a growing community. Meaning what? We've been here for quite a while. Am I right, Zico?
Yes.
And since the early 1980s. At first, we were known to be boat people, Frenchies. However, now we are just like anybody else, Haitian American citizen, am I right? And really willing to engage into the American political system. However, tonight it's not about us only, it's about Mr. Michael GUAGER. Mr. Michael GUAGER, who's a sheriff. But he may not remember myself and Mr. Zico. We have met Mr. Michael GUAGER before, and we worked together. At the time, we were trying to get more Haitian involved in the sheriff department. And I want to say, it is not a myth, it's not a lie, it's not to really kind of pushing him up in front of the crowd, but he was there for us. I remember we had a couple by the name of Jesus, I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
Jesus, and then we have another young man. So, but I believe he passed. He passed 2 years ago. But he was there. He was actively involved in helping to really find a way to enhance, to communicate, to find people who can communicate in our own language within the sheriff department. And without saying, I would like to let Mr. GUAGER himself introduce himself, give his bibliography. Where is he from? And we like to know about our candidate before we vote for you. Mr. GUAGER, we want to welcome you to the forum. And of course, we have Mr. Zico, and then Mr. Baptiste, and myself, Mark Lafanez, which is going to be the moderator, okay? So first of all, I would like to give you a chance to introduce yourself to the crowd.
Sure. My name is Michael GUAGER. I am 76 years old. I spent 50 years at the sheriff's office before I retired the last time. And I didn't really want to retire then, but I discovered that the man that I worked for and I had totally different philosophies, and I couldn't agree with ethics. Our ethics didn't match, so I walked away. And that was in February of 21. So here I am. I'll tell you a little bit about where I came from.
Okay.
So I was adopted when I was 9 months old by a farm family in northern Illinois, right by the state line of Wisconsin. I was raised on a big dairy farm, and I learned a work ethic that farmers teach their kids. They get you up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you do chores till you go to school, you come home and you do chores till 8 o'clock at night. I didn't do a lot of homework, so my grades were not always very good, depending on the amount of homework I had. But I graduated from high school, and I soon left home away from the farm and went out on my own. I came to Florida in January of 1969. I left Illinois in a terrible snowstorm. And I had another guy who had family here in West Palm Beach. We took a bus to Chattanooga, Tennessee, because that's all the money we had. And then we hitchhiked from Chattanooga, Tennessee to West Palm Beach, Florida.
Wow.
And I got a couple of jobs. You couldn't get hired full time. I had 30 cents in my pocket. We stayed with his family. I couldn't get a full-time job. I got 3 part-time jobs. Started working those, and then I met men at the sheriff's office. And they said, why don't you put in an application? So I did. And then they came back to me and said, because I looked I was very young at the time, and I looked even younger. A little skinny, little blonde-headed kid.
You still look good, though.
Okay, thank you. So they said, how about helping us with narcotics? Well, I didn't know anything about narcotics. So I had to go to the bookstore, and I bought books on cocaine and marijuana and acid. And I read the books, and then I started to meet people. And the next thing I know, I was working undercover and making drug buys for the police. And I also worked into an organized crime ring that was football betting cards. And they were Italian guys from New York. So they had me delivering the cards to all the different locations. And it was, it's gambling, it's illegal. So anyway, we ended up busting the whole operation. And so one thing led to another. And I got hired full-time in January 1971 as a young patrol officer. And that's where I started my journey up the chain. I got promoted to tactical detective, and then a detective, and then sergeant, and then lieutenant, captain, major, colonel, and finally chief deputy. And that's where I finished my career as chief deputy. I retired once in 2004. I was going to run for sheriff, but the fellow from West Palm, the guy who was currently sheriff, and I teamed up. He had to insist on being the sheriff. I said, okay, as long as I can keep all my programs going. So that's kind of my little history and where I ended up. But I was a different kind of a policeman. When I started, they gauged your work by the amount of miles on your car. They didn't want you out of your car. They wanted you to drive through all these neighborhoods unless you had a call for service. And then you get out of your car and take the call. But they didn't want you out talking to people. I thought that was insane. How do you help people? How do you meet people and build a relationship in the community if you don't get out of your car? So I was always out of my car, and I always got in trouble. One time, there was a group of kids off Drexel Road out by Okeechobee and the Turnpike, and they were behind a school, and they were shooting baskets. So I got out of my car, and I put my gun belt in my trunk, and I shot baskets with it. Well, this old, crusty old sergeant pulled around and saw me, and I thought I was going to get fired. But those same kids, one of them became a policeman, and one of them became a paramedic on the fire department. And you built that relationship. And then I started young deputies called the junior deputies. I started that program and started training young high school kids that wanted to get into law enforcement. So those are the things I did. It was different. And then as my career developed, I went away to a school at the University of Louisville, and I learned the words community policing. It was something I was already doing, but it gave me an opportunity to build partnerships with the community. I learned that the police should not go to the community and tell them what they need. I learned that you go to the community and you ask the community, what's important to you? What do you need? And I'm telling you, that didn't sit well with a lot of my bosses. But you know what? Sheriff Willie supported me. And he allowed me to start the first community policing unit at a place called Dyson Circle. It was a Palm Beach County Housing Authority place. It was identified as the leading crack cocaine distribution spot in Palm Beach County. So we went in there and we started working. And we identified the drug dealers and we identified the people who were putting them up. And once we get them identified, then we went in and made drug buys, and then we ended up arresting them, and then we talked to the ladies who had apartments there, and we said, look, you know, your lease doesn't say this. You have to make a decision here. So, and then the kids, when we first went in there, ran away from us. By the time we got done, they were running to us. We started after-school programs. We started athletic programs. We did things that made a difference because those drug dealers were getting those kids to sell drugs for them. What chance did they have? And then we started teaching and working with the mothers and telling them. It was so sad. I had a grandmother in her 40s who had 7 children. Her daughter was in her mid-20s and had 4 children. And the granddaughter was age 15. All 3 were pregnant at the same time. Grandma had an apartment. Daughter had an apartment in the housing authority. Where was granddaughter headed? To an apartment in subsidized housing. So I brought in Planned Parenthood for the girls. I brought in healthy mothers, healthy babies for the boys, because they had a program that taught boys, look, if you get this girl pregnant and you don't take care of it, you're not going to get a driver's license. So, you know, we help kids and we help them, mentor them, and so they could become successful and break the cycle of poverty. And those are the important things that I believe in. So, okay.
Mr. Baptiste, you have a question?
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pierre Baptiste from GUAGER and la WPBR Radio Nouvelle Lumière. It looks like we're going to have a new sheriff on town about, excuse me, a new sheriff in town, and I hope so. However, how do you plan to engage the Haitian community?
Just like I did when I was there before. You know what? I went into the community. I learned the problems that they had. You know, the Haitian community came here to build better lives for their families. Mom and dad were working sometimes 2 jobs each and left their children home. Well, when there wasn't programs to keep those kids busy, some of those kids made bad decisions and got with the wrong people and got involved with the gangster thug mentality. And they got in serious, serious trouble. There was a gang called Top 6. And when I looked at most of those young men that were involved in that, that's what happened. They didn't have that structure. So by developing programs in those communities and after school programs and tutoring programs and bringing in athletic programs with solid, good mentors, people who taught kids responsibility, ethics, sportsmanship, and fairness, how to be fair with people. One of the things I learned was that I had several Haitian families where the husband was getting arrested for corporal punishment, for beating their child. It was accepted in Haiti.
Yes.
But here, when you beat your kid with a belt and you leave bruises on their legs and they go to school and they see it, well, then there's a report, DCF comes by, knocks on your door, the police come by, and they arrest you.
Child abuse.
So we had to hold classes and we did training to change the culture and understand the American law, that they cannot beat your child to that degree. The other thing in the Hispanic community was the Central Americans. Where they came from, it wasn't a problem for a 20, 25-year-old, 30-year-old guy to have a relationship with a 14-year-old girl. In fact, they actually even got married at that age. Here, if you have a relationship with a 14-year-old girl, guess what you're going to go?
Yeah.
You're going to go to prison. Yes. So, you know, we had to teach the Central American community that it's not accepted in this culture. You cannot do that.
Yes, sir.
So those are the things that you build partnerships. We don't do it by ourselves. It's the community. And the first thing I did when I went in with community policing is I had meetings in the community, and I brought people in. You know, they were a little hesitant at first. And I found one of the ways that I could get them to the meetings to learn was I would have raffle prizes. Because we used to help all the businesses. And so they would give us raffle prizes, and then if you came in, you got a ticket. And if you stayed in the meeting, then we would pull the ticket. And people stayed at the meeting. And then they started to get engaged. And they had they would form a little group, a president, and they would work with us. And those are the things, building that relationship together, working together in partnership to make our community safer and better.
A second question. Don't you think, it's very important to educate, the police officers, civil servants, some other culture, some other countries' culture? Don't you think it should be very important?
Absolutely. And that's something that I will do again, because I did that before. I brought in sensitivity cultural training, and we talked about how police should react, not just to the Haitian community, but the Muslim community, because it's very different with them as well. And not only that, I brought in training. It's called a crisis intervention training. It's a 40-hour block of training that teaches police officers how to work with people who are mentally ill, or children who are autistic, or people who have dementia. In fact, I worked with a lot of the organizations that represented dementia patients and autistic children. And one of the things I did is when we found out that somebody in the community was suffering from one of that cognitive brain problem, what I would do is we got bracelets. And we worked with Alzheimer's Community Care, and we got bracelets for people, because when they would wander, you can't find them. And just recently, there was a young child wandered from home, and autistic children love the water, so they get to the water, and what happens is that they get in the water and they find them, they've drowned. So if we have bracelets and we have tracking devices, then we can save lives. And so that's so important.
Great job.
My name is Wellesley Versius. I'm a long-time member of the Haitian community. However, I went back to Haiti, but actually, for some reason, I'm here. And I had the chance to meet Mr. GUAGER. It was about maybe 15 years ago, back then, and when we had an incident with fellow Haitian, had a problem with the police, so it was a pretty unfortunate incident. So that's when we went to the sheriff department and we met with Colonel GUAGER, and he was kind enough to open the door and help us to resolve the problem. And he suggested that we had more Haitian police officers in the department. And then he gave us the opportunity to hire a few Haitians. And that was a pretty good move. And if anything happened, so we can have Haitian police that can assist the Haitian who don't speak English. So I think it's about time for him to run for office. It's overdue because he has done a lot, and if you get to the top, he will do more. And we had a pretty good conversation that he promised that he will help not only the Haitian community, and he will unite all the other community to have a better life in the community. So we thank you so very much for what you have done for the Haitian community, and we expect that you're gonna get elected. So when you get elected, so you're gonna do a bit more for the Haitian community. Thank you so very much.
I have so many questions. And I stopped my friend here from talking to her because you are a very nice man. Okay, as a police officer, I have to tell you this story. Okay. Why you want people to vote for you? Not only the Haitian community, but some other community. Why you want them to vote for you?
All communities want somebody that represents them and shows caring. I'll tell you how much I care. I went back to school in my 50s and got a master's in social work. You know, I lean that way anyway.
Yes.
My parents became alcoholics. I know today that my adopted mother was bipolar, and it was like a roller coaster ride. So I kind of suffered from that as a young child, and I developed some behavior patterns that weren't the best. I didn't feel good about myself because I always blamed myself, and then the more I got educated, and I taught DUI school here in this county for 33 years. When you got arrested for DUI, you had to go to a class. First it was 12 hours, and if you got another one, it ended up being 28 hours. But, you know, I help people. I learned that jail is not the answer. It's an answer for very violent, terrible people. But people with mental health issues and drug issues and stuff, you know what? They need help. So I would arrest you, but then I would get you into treatment. Because if I can get you straight and sober, guess what? You're not in my jail. And you go back to your family and you become productive. Instead of costing me $25,000 per inmate, if you're healthy. And many of those inmates are not healthy because they've abused drugs and they're very ill. I had one inmate cost us $850,000. He had terrible crimes and they wouldn't let him out of jail, so he had to have open heart surgery. We as taxpayers pay for that. So if I reduce the population by getting people straight and sober and getting them into treatment, we all win. Families win. Employers win. So, and the person themselves win. So that's the kind of thing I believe in. I'm also physically conservative. I don't spend money foolishly. Everything I have for today is paid for. I don't live above my means. The man who is in office now is $1 million in debt. And he's the same age as I am. He has a house in Ibis, valued at $1.6 million. He's got another house over $1 million in North Carolina. You know, I don't live like that. I have a family. My wife is here with our friends sitting at the table. Hi, Phyllis. Wave your hand. We have 2 children. They're both adults. I have helped both of them. But I didn't get crazy with my money. And on the job, I always found ways to save money. I started a bicycle unit many, many years ago. The guy who first was in it was getting bicycles and spending like $2,500 per bike getting it outfitted. By the time I got done, we were getting bicycles fully outfitted for $800. And you've seen the bicycle policemen out there. Bradshaw's kind of pushed that program down. It's not as active as it used to be, but what a wonderful tool that was to get policemen out of their cars, get them into the neighborhoods, and getting in contact with people, especially places like Lake Worth. You know what? And not only that, you can sneak up on people that are doing bad things. So those are the things that are important. I believe in helping communities. I believe in working together. The current sheriff went up to our headquarters on Gun Club Road was under construction. It was full of mold. So the county came in and tore the whole building apart and supposedly fixing the mold. I'm not sure that's happening. He went up to PGA Boulevard and rented a floor on something called DeVosta Towers. If you've been up on PGA Boulevard by the Gardens Mall, there's two big office buildings with spears, big pyramids on top that light up. They spent almost $400,000 building that floor out. That's temporary office space. You don't get that back. And then he's spending $46,000 a month rent for 11 people. 11 people. You know what I could do with that money? I could have great programs in neighborhoods. And you know what? If I'd have been the sheriff, I'd have put a double wide out by headquarters and worked out of the double wide. Yes. You know? So, and it saved a whole lot of money. And then afterwards, when I moved back in, I could sell the double wide. So, but that's the kind of thinking that I have. I believe in saving money. He just gave some of his top staff $32,000 raises a year. The girl who is the PIO, the Public Information Officer, is making $260,000 a year. That's more than the White House press secretary.
Yes.
You know what? And then he went out and bought him GMC Denali's. You know what kind of vehicle that is? That's like $90,000, $95,000 a piece. So, you know, that's the kind of conservative his budget in 2005 was $324 million. You know what the budget is this year? $902 million. We are almost at $1 billion. 4 helicopters. He's got two fixed wing planes, one that he spent over $1 million for, that most of the time just sits there. So I hope that answers your question, because your property tax keeps going up.
Perfectly.
Yes, sir. Definitely. Insurance too. We're having a hard time in Palm Beach County. However, I would like each and every one of you to get to know each other a little bit. We're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to come back with the questions, okay?